Hey guys, yeah, just want to make a little video here. Probably go long, not sure, but yeah, I just got back from my dad's work. I went there because my car problem and stuff, and I was gonna get him to look at it if he was busy, if he was free enough after he was done working and stuff. But he ended up being too busy to do it, and so he's going to lend me. One of my friends works for him, and tomorrow I'm gonna bring my car to his work, and he's gonna lend me my friend, who would be working for him on the clock otherwise, and he's gonna help me with it. So, which is super cool. But which he's gonna pay my friend in order to do it, which is pretty actually awesome. But anyway, I'm super excited about that, and at the same time, it's interesting. It's interesting anytime I go there to my dad's work, because there's kind of a storied past there, and like, you know, being a child of divorce, basically, or growing up with divorced parents. Things can be interesting, and in my case, I never really knew what life was like with both my parents married, because they broke up when I was 2. I actually do still have memories of being there in our house, even though I was only 2. I do have slight memories of that, mostly because of pictures I've seen that reminded. But I remember being in those places. I remember being there, which is cool. But it's different when your parents break up and your life goes into an interesting direction, and you have mom's side and dad's side, you know. In many people's cases, it's like that, you know. That's how it is for me, or it was for me, you know. You know, that's how it is pretty much in certain ways. But you know, I live with my mom, and so it's not. I'm used to my mom's side. I've always been more used to my mom's side than my dad's side. I would get to go over to my dad's parents, my grandparents on my dad's side, on the weekend when I would grow up, or whenever I wanted, pretty much, and get to go hang out with them, and they'd watch me, or I get to spend time with them, and I get to be so close to them and spend so much time with them, and I just love them so much, and they love me so much. And I got to spend a lot of time with my grandparents on my mom's side as well, but it was always a little bit more, I don't know, it didn't feel as fun necessarily. Like, it was fun, like it was good natured, and there was good feelings, but it was always a little bit more on the discipline side, and that's just the way it was. Really, it was a little harsher at times. It was harsh at times, but it was harsh at times. I would say mildly harsh at times, but still harsh is harsh, especially for a little tender boy growing up with you know, only one parent at home. But yeah, I'm not here to like sing my song with sadness or anything like that, but I'm just kind of here to talk about, you know, what I am trying to talk about. But anyway, so when I moved out west with my girlfriend and future wife and future ex-wife, you know, I moved away from my family. And then when I broke up with her and we got divorced, we still lived in Reno for a year, and I decided to move back home. And the reason I decided to move back home was because I wanted to get closer to my brother on my dad's side, and which I have 2 of on that side, but my middle brother, the one I'm closest to in age, and closer with my dad. And I had never, my whole life growing up, I always had lived with my mom. I'd never lived with my dad. And I wanted to explore what that was like, you know. And I was an adult, I was a full-grown adult. And so, you know, moving in with my dad and them was not that was never the long-term plan, of course, because, like, obviously I'm an adult, and obviously I need to make my own way and have my own future and all this kind of stuff. But when I moved in with him, it was an interesting experience, to say the least. It was the experience I never had, you know. And I had spent a lot of time, growing up, I got to see my dad. Typically, I get to see him pretty much every other weekend or something like that, to some extent. He lived in Pennsylvania for a while. I lived in Maryland, so I wasn't always able to see him. And if he had car trouble or whatever, I wasn't always able to see him. But he was he was there. I'll say it that way. I love my dad with all my heart, but I really can't say he was there. I can't say he was there. He was there, and I mean that differently than what I just got done saying. But he always paid his child support. He was faithful to the end. He always was so apologetic when he was late, which was never, and faithfully paid it on time, and was supportive financially like that for me and my mom, which made a huge difference in my life and my mom's life and all of my siblings' life. All of our lives made a huge difference. But as far as being there and being a person that I could see or rely on or really turn to when I needed him, it was not, he wasn't really accessible. He wasn't really reachable. It was I would see him, but I would see him at some point. And honestly, I missed him so bad, and I wanted to see him so bad, and I needed him so bad growing up, that when I did get to see him, any negative thought or any bad thought was destroyed, gone, as far as I can see, because I was with my dad and I was the happiest I could be. And so it was interesting growing up, and then when I moved back to Maryland and I moved in with him and my stepmom and other two brothers, that was interesting as well. And there were hard times, and unfortunately I want to say that the hard times are the most memorable times, because I remember good times, that just being there was a good thing, but there were also drawbacks and just there was just hard things to deal with, growing up there with him. And it wasn't anyone's fault really. I mean, some things were some people's fault, I guess, but it just wasn't really, it was kind of crazy, you know what I mean? It wasn't like a fairy tale, and that's it's not supposed to be, but it felt like it at first, and then reality started hitting, and reality was not very nice. And it wasn't all someone else's fault. It just was what it was. I was doing things I wasn't supposed to do, like smoking weed and stuff like that, which I wasn't supposed to be doing that, living there with him and my family, and they didn't know it, and I was sneaking it, and my brother was too, and we obviously weren't following the rules, is what it all boils down to. We weren't following the rules, and I was old enough to know better, and I should have been setting a better example, and I wasn't. And it was complicated, and there wasn't really a lot of discipline. On my mom's side, when we grew up, when something was wrong, we did something wrong, we knew about it for sure. We knew about it, and we knew we couldn't do that anymore, and we were addressed, and we were told, and we were made to not do those things anymore. My dad kind of set the law. He kind of threw down the gauntlet and said, this is what this is, and this is what's going on, and you guys can't do this anymore. But he did it in a nice way, which is really cool. And there was just a lot going on. It was really complicated, and so much to comprehend at once, just complicated. But anyway, it all ended up feeling kind of funny and kind of unsettled. And I was in such an unsettled part of my life, confused and kind of lost, Didn't have a relationship with God at that point in my life, and it's kind of living on a high, riding a level, riding a wave of, someone called it a quarter-life crisis, which I guess is pretty harsh, but there is some truth in that. There's some truth in that. To a certain extent. I mean, you don't have to accept labels unless you do, right? If you accept someone's label of you, you don't have to accept someone's label of you. It doesn't have to be true unless if someone wants to paint you a certain way, that doesn't have to be true unless it's like someone gives you this coat. You don't have to put it on. It might fit, but you don't have to put it on. and it doesn't have to be you. And that was kind of where I was with a lot of things in that time of my life. And I ended up working for my dad for his company for a bit, off and on, and the relationship dynamic of me and the household at his house was just complicated, and my life was complicated. So many different things, just complications and stuff, just complications. And so interesting. Lots of dynamics and lots of crazy stuff. And I lived some crazy life. I made some crazy mistakes, and I had some relationships with some older women, and serious, long, live-in, committed relationships. One involved a marriage, and just I did the kind of things that left my dad scratching his head, and left that side of the family kind of scratching their head collectively. And I really struggled because I was so tired of being looked at like, I have to do everything the way you want me to do it. I have to fit this mold. I was so tired of feeling like I had to fit a mold. And I was like, you guys, they do love me, and they did love me, but it felt like you guys don't even love me. You just want me to be a certain way. You don't really care about what I want, or you don't really care about what's important to me. You just want me to be a certain way. And I know that's not really true, but it felt like that for a while. And it was just complicated. And so I worked with my dad off and on, and quit, and this and that, and whatever, and life changed, and I moved here, moved there, and did this, did that, moved back, did this, did that, worked there again. All this kind of stuff, just lots of stuff. And lots of crazy stuff, And so whenever I go over and see my dad, it's interesting. And I've tried to, repair my relationship with my dad for a while. I love my dad with my whole heart. But we don't necessarily have the best relationship, but I will say that we do have a really good one right now, which I'm very thankful for. And I've learned a lot, and it's a little tricky because I do feel kind of confused sometimes. I'll be honest. For what it's worth, not getting into any truths or anything, but this is just feelings. I do feel sometimes like my dad's support or interest in me is based off of what I'm doing with my life, and whether I'm doing a good job. And I think that's linked to me a bit too, because because I have a better self-esteem about myself when I feel like I'm doing the right things, right? I feel better about myself when I feel like I'm doing the right things, and when I feel like I'm doing something that's making my dad proud. It's important to me to make him proud, and that's something I've had to struggle with and navigate as well, and it's a whole bunch of things, and so going by my dad's work today and seeing him for a bit and it not working out, but I wasn't really upset. I understood, because I knew that he's a busy man, he's a business owner, and after a long day of work on a Monday, to just have me pull my car into his warehouse, and now we're gonna take my tire all apart and take this apart and try to work on it, is just a lot, and so there's part of me that really, the part that my mom, this is where she kind of comes in, and she feels this part of me. It's kind of this is a part of me too, but I have multiple parts of me, and so part of me is this isn't a part that I feel. I don't really feel this part right now, and so maybe I'm just numb to it, or maybe it's just unconscious, or maybe it's just my mom. But part of me, is why couldn't you have made time for me, Dad? Don't you see this is important? Don't you understand this is important? I don't ask you for things, and we don't really do things, and I really need you right now. Can't you help me? And with him, he did help me, and he is helping me, but he's not helping me the way I expected. And so there's so many layers to things, and the other part of it too is I'm kind of conflicted, because I'm trying to be self-sufficient, self-reliant, and be able to do things on my own and not need his help, for example. But I do want his help, you know what I mean? I want his help. I want his help, but I also want to show him that that I'm not helpless, and that's pretty simple, but it's a complicated feeling to feel them in such a large proportion, like I do, at the same time, which is so true, I do. I'm not trying to show, I don't want him to think that I don't need him. You know what I mean? But then at the same time, there's also the necessity of being an adult where you aren't supposed to need your parents because you're supposed to be self-sufficient, or there's like this, you know what I'm saying? There's these dynamics. And so it's just interesting, you know? And so I talked to him, and it was nice and chill, and I was bummed and disappointed. And yes, I have gotten used to him telling me things that I've been disappointed about or upset with. And it bothers me that I've done things that I'm sure he is disappointed with me about, you know? And so I hate disappointing him, and I know he doesn't like disappointing me. But there's also life, and it's just things are the way they are sometimes, and you have to do what you have to do, and it sucks. There's a lot of mixed feelings, you know, and I know I love my dad so much, and I know he loves me too. And, you know, it's like that, you know? And there are parts of me that are like, man, Dad, I miss you. I wish you were in my life more. I wish you would just talk to me more. I wish you would talk to me more, you know? And I'm the one that talks to him, you know? I'm the one that makes the moves and talks to him. Like, he never reaches out to me. I always reach out to him. But at the same time, and to be fair, I'm the one who reaches out to him. So I'm the one who calls him, and then he answers and we talk, and stuff like that. And so I don't know. It might be disjointed. I think it is disjointed. But like, I think it's kind of like one of those things. It's like if two people are going to do the same thing, but one person is just faster than the other, well, then the faster person is going to do it fast. Is going to do it more often because they're faster, right? That's like, I guess that's part of my thought on it. But I just wish that he was more. You know what I mean? I wish that he would call me too. I wish that he would text me too. I wish that he would text me out of the blue. I wish that he would just call me and say, like, because I exist, and he knows that, and I live in the same state as him, and I live 20 minutes away from him, and he knows that, and he knows that, and he knows how things are going. But like, he never, and I tell him, I keep him in the loop about how things are going, often enough to where he knows how things are going. So he doesn't necessarily have to reach out to me and ask how things are going, because for the most part, he knows. But at the same time, I wish that he would, because it would be nice just for him to do that. It would be nice for him to just do that instead of me having to tell him, or, you know what I mean? It would be nice. And so there's a lot of layers, and there's a lot of, I guess, complexities or dynamics and things like that going on and stuff, and it's interesting to say the least. But anyway, after I had that conversation with him in the office at his work today about things, and we talked about tomorrow, and I was like, I was happy, because I didn't want to bother him. But that's another thing to deal with. It's like, you know, you shouldn't feel like you're bothering someone when you need them. You shouldn't feel like you're a bother. And so it's complicated, right? It's complicated feelings, you know? And so it's interesting is the word I'll use. But after that, I was like, I didn't want to put pressure on him, because I came there before he was even done with work. I didn't want to put pressure on him to say, hey, I expect you to stop what you're doing right now and get up and come help me. Like, I didn't want to do that, you know? But then another part of me but that touches another part of me too, like I said, because there is a part of me that's like, Dad, why don't you pay attention to me? Why won't you help me? Why won't you talk to me? There's a part of me that feels that, you know? And so it's very interesting. There's a lot of dynamics there, a lot of things, feelings that get pulled and tugged, and you feel this and you feel that, and because of this you feel that, and because of that you feel this. And, you know, it's like that, you know? But I told him to kind of ice the mood a little bit, and I had planned, I didn't, you know, I felt like I was ahead of time. I was like, he's not done work yet anyway. Typically it's only 4. He usually finishes around 5:30, 6, something like that. So I brought with not wanting to show up and be like, hey, stop what you're doing and help me, I want your help, which I would not, I wouldn't do that anyway. That's not who I am. I wouldn't presume to do that or come with that kind of expectancy at all, because I respect my dad and I love him and I have respect for him and his job. At the same time, as much as I want him to be more of a part of my life. But I brought my backpack and my schoolwork because I knew that I had time, probably. I had stuff to do. If he wasn't ready to help me, I had something to do anyway, and to take the pressure off, told him I had things to do, which would make things easier for him to feel like he wasn't being pressured and stuff like that, because I'm sure he knew that I needed his help, and he probably felt some pressure about all kinds of things, and so I was being conscientious of him, and I don't want to create a dynamic between me and him that says, I'm unhappy with my dad because blah blah blah, because this, and I'm upset with him because of this, and this. Like, I don't want to create a dynamic like that at all. I don't want to be in denial of reality, but I want to stay grateful, and I want to stay, balanced and realistic, And I think I'll end up saying more things to him if it's necessary. Like, it's so hard. Like, sometimes it's like, should you say something to him? It's like, well, I might be ready to go tell him something like, hey, Dad, I wish that you would text me more, or, I know I reach out to you and I have these feelings, and I talk to you and stuff, but I really wish that you would message me, and I know that you probably feel pretty good about my relationship with you, but like, I don't necessarily feel that good about my relationship with you. I wish there was more, I wish we had more, and I know that you're busy, and all those kinds of things. And so sometimes while I have those feelings and I want to express them and share them, at the same time, we do things. At the same time we do things. We do get together. We do things sometimes, And like since the summer, since it's October now, mid-October, between now and let's just say April, me and my dad have probably done we've probably done 3 things. And those 3 things were like getting together. Either we went out to eat, or we rode bikes, or he helped me with a bike, or I came in and talked to him, or something like that. It's just like that, But I just don't like it because I feel like too much of a stranger, and I don't want to feel strange to my own family, and I don't want my family to feel strange to me. And I make effort, and I put in effort, and I show up, and I go, and I see them, and I visit them, and I text them, and I call them, and I talk to them, and I drop in on them, and I do all of those things, but I can't say that I get that back, because I don't get that back from them. And I know how life is, and I'm not trying to be hard on anyone and complain or be and I'm sure that this is similar for a lot of people. I'm sure that a lot of people wish that their family talked to them more. And I'm lucky to have the family that I do have. But I'm still being honest and saying that I wish there was more. And that I wish that if it wasn't for I just wish that I wasn't the one that had to do all the work. You know what I mean? And my family is there, and they do love me, and they do support me, and they do show up for me. It's hard to say this because I don't want to be unkind or unfair to them. They show up for me. I was going to say they show up for me when I need them. They show up for me sometimes. And sometimes most of the time. But it just depends, it just depends. And I just wish that people were there for me more. And I can't be there for everyone all the time, and I know no one else can either. But I guess I just wish that there was a little bit more. That's all I'm saying. I just wish there was a little bit more. And I think that's totally, absolutely freaking fine to think, say, and want and feel, And I am not gonna back down from that feeling, because I know it's totally fair. It's a beautiful sunset, by the way. I know it's totally fair to want more, especially of your family that loves you, family that you need to feel love from. And honestly, I know that one of the reasons I found the church is because I need this love. I need it. And not everybody else, I'd say, not everybody else recognizes their need for it. Not everybody else realizes their need for it. And therefore they're able to get through without it. Perhaps. To some extent. But I need it. And I know I need it. And I don't feel bad for needing it. And this is why I'm so thankful to have the friends that I have, the church family that I have. These people are so amazing and so meaningful to me and so special to me. And it's tricky. I do struggle sometimes a bit because I struggle with feelings, right? I struggle with feelings because I have so many feelings that I can't even tell how I feel sometimes. And other times I feel like I don't have any feelings at all, and I don't feel like I feel anything, you know? And I know that's relatable for so many people. But I struggle because I should feel grateful. I should feel more grateful. I wish it wasn't so complicated for me. I wish feelings weren't so complicated for me. I wish it could be just so simple and cut and dry. But I think because of like some bad things I've engaged in or bad things I've experienced in my life, and also just bad experiences I've had with a hard childhood or hard situations with significant others, things like that, it's just complicated for me sometimes. Like, I had some friends from church throw me a birthday party a couple years ago, and it meant the world to me. But from their perspective, it didn't seem like it mattered to me at all, because I wasn't showing excitement, I wasn't showing joy, I wasn't showing excitement, I wasn't showing joy, I was showing nothing. I was showing like happiness, but a happiness that's holding on to something. And I think that I struggle because I've longed for something that I haven't necessarily had in my life, like my dad. Something that I needed, but I didn't really have it. And so when you get the kind of love that you've needed, that you've never really had before, and you've never really even experienced it like that before, it is so different. And it just hits different, let's say. It hits different. And it makes you feel so amazing. But it's also new, and it's also foreign. And you think that, well, if you were a child, then you should just be happy. You would just naturally be happy. But as adults, our feelings, our emotions are so much more complicated. And I'm not trying to make excuses for not being. See, I feel guilty for not being more grateful. Like, I wish I was more grateful. And I think I'll say something about this to the person who was involved with giving me that birthday party. But I just kind of wanted to speak on this because it's been hard to deal with. And like, actually, a lot of these thoughts I'm talking about here are extremely hard to talk about, in that I just never do. I never get to this point where I can talk about them really. And I am so thankful that I'm able to sit here right now and talk about them. I'm so thankful. And I'm about to get home. I'm home now. And I'm gonna have dinner with my mom and chat with her and stuff and everything. And but like, I'm that person that's there for other people. I'm that person who's a listening ear. I'm the one who listens. I'm the one that's there. Right. And so like, when it comes to receiving that, I don't necessarily always get that. I do have some really awesome friends who give me that, and I am so thankful for that. And I just want anyone who's listening to know about any of this. If you've experienced some, I guess, confusing behavior from me, like you haven't really understood why I've done things a certain way, I just want to say that it's just kind of complicated to... Feelings are complicated sometimes, and I don't quite know how to feel sometimes, and I can't really just you can't always regulate your feelings, or you can't always control the feelings that you have. You kind of just have the feelings that you have sometimes, and you kind of just have to deal with them. But at the same time, we can make our own choices and make our own differences and things like that. And so it's wonderful. But I gotta get going. But thanks for listening, guys, and I hope that this was I don't know. I hope you got something out of it, because I definitely got a bunch out of it by being able to express this. And I appreciate you guys for listening, anyone who listened.